My name is Amber, and I want to talk about how gematria affects the human body, how colors, numbers, and letters affect the human body and affect our environment, and how planets are translated through colors, numbers, and letters and elements, mostly elements, but each element has a vibration with an atomic number of protons and neutrons and electrons. So, as a starter for a background story for how I even started thinking about this stuff, because first of all, I'm not a scientist. I've been to the mental psych unit twice now in the last 3 years. So do not take anything I say and use it as advice. Just I would like to talk, and if you want to listen, thank you. But I do feel like I'm saying this because I think it would be helpful to another person, maybe going through something similar, or just to share my experience in general. So, in 2018, on my birthday, I had a moment where I was crying, but I was done crying, and then it was like my tears almost became magnified outward, and it felt like almost like a personal experience, like a religious type experience, but I considered that it could have been my tears, but it looked like a Metatron bubble, and it was holographic. And then shortly after, in the dark, as I was crying again, I saw again outwardly a vision of it was like a fairy type lion who was wearing a hat, and its hair was on fire and its eyelashes were white and made of ashes, and it was happy. No, first it had a whole row of teeth, and I looked at it with just curiosity, and then it smiled and left. And then I started thinking I was going crazy. This is before I went to the psych unit at all in 2018. So I was looking up YouTube videos like DMT and Terrence McKenna and Alan Watts. I had been into for a long time, and so just trying to find somebody that would relate to me, basically. And what I ended up having happening was I was looking up holograms and how holograms work, and a friend of mine mentioned that crystals are what get, like quartz crystals are what get a watch to tell time, and that reminded me of our pineal gland. And so I just started thinking about it scientifically. And then in January, I was going to sleep, and I had a vision that I painted that looked like this, and it almost, to me, seemed like, kind of like it looked like I was experiencing an MRI, but like on my own.
Mom, can I have more pizza?
Also, there's this weird, like, subconscious feeling that if I talk about what I am going through, it automatically makes me a bad mother if my daughter is around while I'm talking about it. But I don't feel like explaining myself makes me a bad person or gives me ill intentions either. And I also wish that more people had stories to share, so we didn't all feel alone when we had weird things happen to us. Also, she's playing a video game with her headphones while I'm making this video. I don't know, it's just like a weird borderline of what's acceptable in society, I guess. I don't know. So, I was laying down with my eyes open, going to sleep in January 2019, and I saw a visual of that painting that I painted that looks like, to me, a dragon, but also an MRI. And when I saw it, it was primary colors, and it was moving back and forth like this, like one way loop, spiral out, spiral in, spiral out. So I was looking up how holograms work, how mirrors work, how concave surfaces work, and it's like this dome where it's as above, so below, but this is how a hologram itself is shown, where you have an object, but with water and refracted light, it becomes visible. So it's like we are like diamonds, but we're individual diamonds with our own individual barcode that absorbs energy through our environment, through the planets that are rotating at that particular time, through the amount of sun and water that we're receiving in the air, through the elements in the air. And then we translate all of those things through our mind out of our sight. And then we choose to do that with our mouth and our hands. And we translate that out with our breath as well, and mostly actually. So when we get energy, as I believe, I believe when we get energy through our planet, it's not translated through the sun itself, and that's not necessarily the sun, but it hits the dome of the earth that creates the hologram that we see. So it's like we're getting a translation through Earth's plasma, like the ozone layer. So this is kind of what I mean by like we all have our individual barcodes, where like the planets create a mobile through the sun, and then the sun creates its own code based on what the planetary alignment is, and then sends that through Earth. Earth translates it based on ley lines to each individual human who has their own receptory, whatever the word is, vessel, receptacle. So in ancient, like Mayan or Aztec astrology, you have different currents that need to work together but are constantly moving in not scheduled, there's no real pattern to it. So there's the story of the 5 suns, and it's about balancing these chaotic energies together through the ley lines. And then these are all a bunch of different translations of Jesus that I have found. So I've kind of personally understood Jesus at this point, and I might change my mind, to be a man who can, through his bodily vessel, or did at one point, because Jesus died, he could control these energies through his bodily vessel and then translate them through like a Reiki system into water. But I could be wrong because I don't know. Alright, so all numbers, letters, and colors have a vibration behind them, and they differ from ley line to ley line. And it's through repetition and bodily vessels that these important basic features of life differ. So here's the color wheel, ROYGBIV, R-O, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. So red goes directly down. Let me explain. So red is root chakra energy. And when you're in that feeling of like primal, feral instinct, whether it's like just anything that's like basic instinct, it's basically red. So when you're in that red zone of kind of like an adrenaline rush, or just like needing to survive, or just being like you're just doing something without thinking about it, you go directly straight through the blue and green. Like you go straight down. You don't have time to bend. You're not flexible, right? So blue and green is mostly found in nature, and blue is like water and sky. So green is like in between, bear with me here, green is in between blue and yellow. Yellow is found sporadically in the environment and then straight shoots to violet. Violet is associated with your crown chakra. Your crown chakra is your subconscious that's not primitive. It's your subconscious that makes you have an ego. It's like what you feel like makes you you, or gives you soul to your life, gives you the zest on the top of the food. That's the violet, that's the crown chakra. It's who you feel like you are, and when you become you as a whole, and you can reach the top of yourself. So my point for this is that you can manipulate people individually and as a mass through colors and letters. You can tell people something that you want them to hear, and then they might just do it or communicate back with you, and you can talk back and forth. But what I'm talking about is having somebody go somewhere, do something out of character, and then wonder what happened the next minute. So the reason that I am coming to this conclusion to make this video is because the first time I went to the hospital, I asked to go. The first time I went to the psych unit, I asked to go because I was very confused. I went to the grocery store, went colorblind for a moment. That week, I was listening to videos sort of, kind of, overnight for how to learn Latin in your sleep. I went to the grocery store. All of the colors disappeared. Suddenly yellow came back, and then all of the other colors slowly came back again. But when I was in the grocery store, I kind of felt like I was having a stroke or a panic attack, or just that I was even almost in an alternate reality, and it was kind of terrifying. And I was just avoiding the meat department because in my mind, for some reason, I thought that if I went to the meat department, I was going to be eaten alive. And I just kept doing circles. None of the words made sense. It was all like, I couldn't even identify what the language was. and I kept putting my hand on and off packages. It was in a Walmart, and the words and letters were changing, like, when, in my mind at least, when I would put my hand on a bag, it would say one thing, and I would take my hand off, and then it seemed like it changed. And the only thing that didn't change was Poopsie Slime Surprise cereal, which was kind of funny, but it was at the same time like, what? It was really weird to me. So I eventually, after 10 minutes, I thought I was dying, and I laid on the floor of the grocery store. And my daughter was with me, so me talking about this in front of her is not necessarily anything new because she experienced it with me. And it was actually really terrifying. So I laid on the floor for a second, and then while I was lying on the floor, I thought I looked strange and I should probably get back up because people were probably looking at me like I was weird, and I wouldn't blame them because I was laying on the floor of the Walmart. And when I left, my daughter, who is an Aries, said, "Hey, Mom," and then she headbutted me super hard, which is just kind of cute to me, whatever. So, but what I want to say is I keep thinking about how people, and because I almost have panic attacks sometimes when I go to grocery stores, and I had before this situation, but a lot now after I experienced this. So you can control people through colors, and if you get somebody in a primal adrenaline rush feeling, which is red, they go straight through that blue to green line. Green calms you down more than blue does. So when you're in a grocery store, they're generally blue. Grocery stores generally go by a blue baseline, right? Sorry, I'm like holding the phone everywhere. My back hurts. Okay, so when you're outside, these primal emotions are more easily calmed and tempered. But when you're in a place where it's mostly blue, and I'm not saying that there's a conspiracy from grocery stores to make people freak out. I think grocery stores use blue to make you hungry, which actually makes more sense of why that red to blue feeling amplifies the primal instinct. Because let me show you the color wheel again. So you're in this root chakra, raw primal energy. You go straight down. If you're not outside and you're in a grocery store, you go to blue. Instead of going from green to violet, you go from blue to orange to indigo. So you're going back to blue. So you're cycling back. So if you're already in this like energy of needing something, you're more easily manipulated and triggered into a subconscious pattern that could occur while you're at the store, shortly after you're at the store, or later on from something that occurred in the store subliminally to your mind. And I could be wrong. I'm not saying I know all about colors, but another thing that I want to say is because our eyes are based on color, they are almost like an organic CD, an organic laser disc, and you can receive and trigger different experiences based on your surroundings because of this color wheel. Also, in Egypt, as I have kind of thought about lately, I don't know anything for sure, but it's like those translations of your environment through the color wheel laser disc of your eyes, and then that reverb vibration into the back of your skull and then back out through your vision and your breath and your skin and the water droplets that are the same shape, almost like, well, there's water in your eyes and then that water vibrates through your body. So everything you experience is within you, and you have your eye of Ra and eye of Horus to send that information back and forth through water. So it's like almost to me as if what it's trying to teach us through those Egyptian eyes is that it's not necessarily what you see or how you see it, but the vibration behind what is received, because there's liquid in your eyes that translates into your skull, and the insides of you cannot be replaced in any possible way. Like, you cannot recreate somebody's exact brain profile structure, and your brain is a library of tunnels that translate and reverb in the most organic, beautiful way. But okay, so I could talk for probably an hour longer, but my body wants to stop talking, and I'm going to end it with we live inside of everything, and to be human is to have the possibility to alter, create, destroy our environment more so with will than any other living being that I'm aware of. No matter how smart or stupid we are, we have the tools to create and destroy more than any other creature. And with that experience, we should be grateful whether or not we consider it positive or negative. Thank you.